Good evening, everybody. It is almost 6:30. It is October 27th, Tuesday, and I just had a birthday on Sunday. So, yeah, I'm older now. I don't know if I like that, but hey, let me know if my sound is okay, and we're gonna go through the topics. And believe it or not, it's positive. It's a positive message, and I'm going to open up the phone lines for people to call in and share what they know, so we can all listen and grow. And because after all, you guys, we're all in this together. So, but some quick announcements first before we get started here is I want to apologize to anybody that has lost the channel somehow or another. Um, you know, it's hard when we subscribe to multiple channels if one has disappeared or not, or if they're just not posting, and I understand that difficulty. And I've taken actions, and it seems to have stopped the loss of subscribers. But for the ones, who have been dropped off, I sincerely apologize, and I will try the best that I can to try to notify people, so that way, if you've unsubscribed because you wanted to, that's because you made a conscious choice. But if you've been knocked off for any other reason, just so that way you have the opportunity to subscribe back, or at least know that you've been removed for some reason or another. So YouTube is looking into it. Something, glitches happen, things happen, and we'll just move forward from there. And even with notifications and things like that, sometimes we need to make sure that we're making sure our notification bells are set, because I'm no longer getting notified when Preliminal or Dead GBK put up a post, and I'm a regular watcher of theirs. Now I get them on my feed, thank goodness. So I find them there, and then I'll re-click the notification bell again. So, in hopes that it'll show up under that bell. That's convenient. That's where I want, I check there first. It's easy. So tonight's topic is, how's the sound? Everything sound good? Oh, thank you very much, the GPK, for the happy birthday. So the sound is good and all that, great. Okay, our topic is Morning Star, Man of Sin, and Spiritual Law. Some interesting topics, to say the least, on if we were raised Christian. And we've, read, of course, everybody's read Revelations. And when John the Divine is having his revelations, it's pretty, eye-opening to understand what's going on there. When the man of sin is revealed and things like that. But let's start with the morning star. What do you guys think the morning star is? I'll give you guys a few minutes to put in your answer on what you think that the morning star is, what the representation, the physical representation of the morning star is. And then I'm going to pull up a slide, and I'm going to show you what the morning star is. And it's pretty amazing. It's really, really amazing when we find out what it actually is compared to. I mean, I used to look for a star. I used to look for the first star, that would shine brightly in the morning. And then I had the reveal of, wait, what am I looking for? It's something that shines all day long. There's your hint. So what do you guys think? What do you think that the morning star is? I know that it was given to, or Lucifer was called the bright morning star, and then Jesus is called the bright and morning star now. But it is actually, there's a physical representation of what this bright morning star that is ever faithful. It's always there, day in and day out, very visible for us to see. That's all the hints I'm going to give you. So come on, you guys, type in some guesstimations of what you think the bright and morning star actually represents. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the slide and just give it away. get all this stuff out of the way. There you go. That is the bright and morning star. Some of us now see it as white. Some of us still see it as orange. But that old faithful bright and morning star is our sun. And it comes up every morning and goes down every night. And it's the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. So that revelation came, and then I did research, and I found out, oh my goodness, it's the sun. The sun is the bright morning star. Isn't that amazing? But it's Cyrus or Mercury in the morning before sunrise. Wow. Okay. When I had this revealed, I found the research, and I found that it was the sun. But everything is subjective. Everything is as a man thinks, so is he. So it could be something different for another than what it is that I found. And that's the beauty of this place, is that we can have differences, different thought processes, different revelations come to us, but at the same time, both being correct. We can respect, we can listen to one another and respect each other's thought process and position, with just, having a knowing within of, each other's identity brings so much beauty and harmony into the world. Now, I got another slide I want to show you guys, and this one is on the man of sin being revealed. And we'll pull this one up. And while you guys are looking at that, I'm going to pull that other one down below. Yeah, okay. So here we're looking at an angel, half light, half dark, half red, half blue, or half white, however you want to look, perceive it. But the man of sin standing in the holy place. What is your body called? Your body's your temple. And when we come to, when we're going through the revelations and the man of sin is revealed, it's actually an eye-opening process. It's the eye-opening process of the recognition that the man of sin is our doubt, and it's our confusion. And we begin to recognize, whether we're doing harm to another being, or if we're actually enhancing life experiences along with, with the introspection we're doing. That revelation comes, and so do a lot of our amazing gifts come back into our remembrance. Remember, this place is a mirror. We reflect out. What is reflecting out around us that we see is from within. What's going on inside of us reflects out in our surroundings. And I don't know how many times I say it just about every post I make. Sky Watchers do a tremendous job of revealing that what is going on within is reflected out in their surroundings. When it's just them, we see the beauty of just them. But we also, sometimes when they're around other people, we see the mix, because the quantum level, we're all one, but on the quantum level, we are entangled. So when you're around other people, or other people are, within our scope, that will affect what we are seeing around us. It is absolutely a beautiful and profound understanding. And when we see the man of sin being revealed in the holy place, which is our temple, we're having a huge revelation. And not only is it a revelation, we also come to the understanding that the only person that we have any right with, free will, that is a gift that's given to all of us, that we have the right to only change ourselves. That's the power that was bestowed upon us. We're not to change other people or want other people to change to conform to the way we think or judge one another in any respect. We don't have that right. We have been given free will to discern, but we're not to judge another. And when we're introspecting and this revelation comes, it's beautiful, because then we know, wait a minute, it was my error in thinking, it was my heart condition. And then we really dive deep into the work to remove anything that is not really of us, things that we picked up from the outside of our being and taken onto ourselves, and then began to judge ourselves and compare ourselves to one another in such ways that we feel downtrodden, the class system, or all of these things going on. It's revealed to us, and we purge that caca, for lack of a better word, out. We get it out. It doesn't belong in us. It's not part of us, and that's why it's a huge revelation. Okay, let me get this slide out of the way. And the two suns, I saw Preliminal asked about the two suns. Well, I've seen the orange sun for a long time in my life, and then now all I see is the white sun. I see the orange sun at sunrise and sunset, but during the day it's a bright white sun. I don't know. I remember I shared with you guys that dream. Well, it was like an out-of-body experience. I traveled in my Merkaba, and I went to this place, and I walked around this field, and when I looked up into the sky, I saw 3 suns. 2 of them were orange, and 1 was bright white. And then when we got to the end of this pathway, there was these little pellet-looking things, and I got the inner feeling that it was free energy. And then I noticed I had glasses on, and I tried to remove the glasses, but they were like protective glasses, not to help with my vision. They were protective, like they were thick and they were orange. And that's when the gentleman standing beside that vehicle that had no wheels told me that I needed to leave my glasses. He had glasses on also, but he told me I needed to leave them on until I got into the vehicle. So I've seen them in when we travel in our Merkaba. A lot of people don't quite understand, and that sleep paralysis that comes over us scares a lot of people to shake themselves awake and not go on these journeys. But when that feeling comes over us, it is our Merkaba, and it oscillates. It's like 2 triangles, one up, one down, but they kind of meet, like the Star of David, but they oscillate opposite directions very fast, and there's an inner energetic feel that we get, and it makes us feel like we can't move our body, but it's so much energy that's going into that, and shoo, we travel off and we see some pretty amazing things. But everything still, even in that realm, is done on free will, and with free will we have the choice on whether to go on those journeys or not. We're not going to be forced to do anything that we're not comfortable with. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the phones on real quick, and I'll turn the sound on in just a second, so you don't have to hear the ring-a-ding, because I want people to
conference by Dialpad.
Well, thank you for welcoming me. It's welcoming me. Okay, let me set it up right. And there we go. Okay, and pull the phone number up for you guys. And the last topic we're going to talk about is spiritual law, and getting an understanding of spiritual law, and why. Let me pull the phone number up real quick. Why spiritual law really is not condemning. It really is not. When duality came into place, good, evil, judging things, whether it be from mankind deciding that we wanted to expand, and experience something different. And if we remember back then, there was no death. So There's no telling how long these people lived prior to introducing and discussing with one another to have such an experience. But in the meantime, they had children, and if you're going to live to 1,000 years old, imagine how many children you could have. And the children will be born into a system like this. And when they're born into a system like this, then they don't know any different. So they then start to react to the projection. And then instead of realizing that it's a mirror reflection, they begin their response, which starts this cycle. Well, when we started to hurt each other, see, no matter what it is we do for a living, no matter what it is we think, on a carnal level, the truth be told, each and every, I call us mankind. Human, is like cut down or hewed down to a lower status. We're mankind. We're made in the likeness and image and given the essence of the Elohim, the creator of all. And when we hurt another divine being, it sets spiritual law into place, because we don't have the right. We're not the judge over another. We don't have that right. And when we start to judge or trodden down or harm, whether physically or in thought, there's a lot of power. We're very powerful beings. And coming to the understanding how much power we each hold, we start taking more care on what we say to other people and how we treat other people, because we see that all things, each of us, each and every single one of us, are loved unconditionally. The Creator is not a respecter of persons. Loves each of us unconditionally. And also, all things are equal, and spiritual law will make things equal. Whether, am I in there? Okay, good. I'm going to go over where I can see the chat. So, with us being equal, when we harmed another sovereign, free will, divine being, spiritual law came into place to make things all back balanced again. And all of the spiritual laws are not bad. The one that we need to take care on is reaping what we sow. If we sow out harm to another, we'll reap it back. Because if we thought about it and we spoke about it and then we did something, some kind of an action against another divine being, that's three things I listed off. So there would be, you would get it back, you would reap it back 3 times back to oneself. And so when we understand that law, it really makes a lot of sense. And all things being equal, we should treat each other as the divine, unique being, all adding to this body. We're all one body. In the Bible, it talks of us as being one body in Christ. And that's a way of saying that, it doesn't matter if you're the pinky toe or if you're the ear. Each part keeps the body running to full function and being whole. Each part is necessary, and all being of one body. That's what we should look at. If we hurt another divine being, we're hurting ourselves. And that's where spiritual law came into place. Hi, Craig MacArthur, Alva Yater, Preliminal, Dead GPK, Michael Fontaine in the studio. Let's see, did I miss anybody? Let me scroll up. Oh, Viv. I'm sorry. The Truth Set You Free. Love that name, because the truth does set us free. That it does indeed. It does. And just having the gnosis of just a few simple understandings of our divinity, how we're created, will help us on how we treat one another, which could change the trajectory of our life. We did that exercise on when you first wake up in the morning, give 5 things that you're grateful for, which will set that trajectory for the day. As we think and we speak, we have, there's power there. There's power in our words. If you think about where the power sources come from our words, we have, the indigo, the mind, where that bridge is, or the born from above experience, or third eye awakening, whatever. I'm not talking on a religious, I'm talking on our spiritual nature, which we're spiritual, having a physical experience. And our heart is the other power source, which our heart is a toroidal field. And when we get our renewed heart, we get an expanded toroidal field, and that's where you will reap in where you've not sown. But I'm talking blessings, not paying back karmic debt. But when you're speaking, your voice coming from that blue, powerful frequency and vibration going out, surrounded by two major power sources backing it up. So no wonder when we speak, it has so much power in what we say. So thoughts, speaking, that's how we accumulate some debt on the wheel of karma. But it's also the way that we gain rewards. And we all come to a point in our journey that, you guys, the phones are open if anybody wants to call in and add to the conversation. You're more than welcome to, because we all share what we know, because we all listen and grow from one another. Everybody has major pieces to the puzzle to offer, and we glean and grow from one another. But always remember, anything that we get from an outside source, we should take it into prayer and meditation and get our own affirmations, because you'll get them. The truth will rise up within. But sometimes hearing helps. By hearing, then it gives us something to think about, to stretch our mind, to take ourselves from being limited, which is a spiritual law, by the way, spiritual law of limitless, unlimited, eternal, infinite. That's a spiritual law. And a lot of us have got ourselves all confounded and strung up into limitations. And by having limitations set on us, we're the ones that are actually setting those limitations through our free will. That God-given gift that we all have, which is free will. We're a sovereignty upon ourselves. So we need to break through and realize that we are limitless. And then we'll be like Christ, and lift up the basket and into the air and feed the multitude, because it'll multiply right there, because now you're limitless and you're grabbing from the unseen realm of abundance, and there's no lack and there's no concern, because all things equal, everyone loved equally by the Creator. Everything is accessible equally to everyone. And it shouldn't matter what one has. We should never get jealous or worry about what one has. We should always be blessing each other for what each other has, and allow that to broaden our perspective in order to lift any kind of limitations that we put on ourselves. So, was it somebody else's birthday too? Happy cake birthday, Parker Vanity? Am I reading that wrong? Oh, okay, I see. Okay, I read Michael's. Oh, so, okay. So Michael had just celebrated a birthday for his daughter, Parker. Wow. Mine was on Sunday, and you had one yesterday, so one day apart. Happy birthday, Parker. That's awesome. That's awesome. I didn't want to get another year older, but not worried about it, because I don't look that much older. I look the same as I did the day before. So it is what it is. But to look at me a couple years ago, before I made that affirmation of food is for pleasure and it's no longer through the lips to the hips, and I lost weight, I'm down to the I'm a little bigger than I was before I had my first child. So just from a paradigm shift, just from thinking completely differently about my food, and I didn't have any doubt. I just said it, and I just let it be. I didn't worry about it or stress on it or think it wasn't going to happen. When I went to the doctor the next month, there was a significant weight loss. And by the third month, he was like, "You have to tell me what diet you're on." And I told him I was on the seafood diet. He looked puzzled. Well, by Christmas, I brought in a big tray of cookies, and when I brought them in, the girls were like, "They're not on my diet." And I said, "Oh, they're fat-free. Eat them. They're fat-free." So then the doctor comes into my room with a cookie in his mouth saying, "I can't believe these are fat-free." And I said, "Sure, Doc, all the fat you want for free." And then he insisted on knowing what this seafood diet that I was on, was all about, because I was dropping weight just about every appointment, which I was having heart problems. And he told me I had to lose weight, had to. And I told him, I said, I didn't change anything in my diet. I just changed what I thought that food would do for me. And, it just happened. So he's got the medical records to prove it, and he was pretty shocked. But maybe that opened his mind a little bit to knowing that there's more than just what we react to and what we hear on commercials and things like that. The power is held within each of us as sovereign, unique, beautifully made, wonderful beings. It's just amazing, when we start having these revelations and we no longer see it from a carnal perspective, that we're actually looking through our spiritual eyes. Even the Bible reads different. Everybody in the carnal perception of things, they're waiting for a man of sin to be standing in a temple somewhere. They're forgetting. The Bible talks about our vessel, our body, as being a temple all the way through. So why are we forgetting about ourselves as the unique, beautiful, divine beings that we are? It's a part of our restoration. And having the revelation that we have this going on within us is huge, because then we know ourselves, whether to put the work in on ourselves. It's introspection. And when we see that there's error in our programming, we then can acknowledge it and remove it. We have that power. It's us. It's always been us, you guys. It's always been us. And the sun, being called the sun, it can, it's S-U-N to us, but S-O-N, it was given over, I was raised Christian, so it was given over to Yeshua, to Christ Jesus. And so he's got the honor of the sun now. He's the bright morning star. He took the position of Lucifer. So, and he's also referred to as the second Adam. And if we think about, being the second Adam, well, that the first that were here decided, well, maybe we want to expand. Now, I'm not telling you guys this is a fact. I'm saying always introspect. This part here, I'm just, giving an opinion on it. That we decided we wanted to experience something. We discussed it amongst each other and decided to go, get in on it. And we created something to experience, because we had not yet known anything about lack, suffering, pain, any of that. And that's why, it even says in Genesis 2, which is like a second creation story, where the woman will have pain in childbirth. Well, before that, there was no pain. We didn't know anything about it. So it kind of, the story is there. The history's there if we read with our spiritual eyes. At least that's how I find it. I find it to be a completely different content and Hey babe, you want to put her in a house so she doesn't bark into the mic and hurt people's heels? Alright, if you're gonna, are you gonna be quiet, girly? Probably not. Do angels prevent time travelers? I, from my experience with traveling in the out of body with the where I would have the sleep paralysis and things like that, I haven't been prevented from going anywhere. My Merkaba just starts to swirl, and I'm taken, and I go, and I see, I perceive, I take part, and I get to take back whatever it is that I have on that journey. When I wake up, I remember it in perfect detail as it happened. The only thing that is a strange anomaly with it is since the accident in 2008, it usually takes me 30 to 45 minutes to finally fall asleep. One of the journeys I went on, I felt it was middle of the day, and all of a sudden I just felt super tired. As soon as my head hit the pillow, I was gone. And from my perspective, I was gone for hours and hours. As I shared the one earlier where I saw the 3 suns, I also saw, seen in the sky, the 7 translucent looking earths. They weren't oscillating, but it was like the outline of them, and my gosh, they were so beautiful. And then there I was walking around a wheat crop, with a group of people. That walk itself was a couple hours, and then having the conversation and everything with that. And then, but when I came back and I woke up, I heard the buzzing from within and in my ears still, and it had only been 15 minutes. So I think time is also part of the illusion, the construct that we've put together in order. So and there's a purpose for having set up time, so that way we can make appointments to meet each other and things like that, especially in the state of awareness that we are dealing with this at this moment. But I do think, even with like empathic people, when you can feel everybody's energy around you, and then you get your next portion, you're able to pull it back in. Then you're able to read people's thoughts and intentions, that there's going to come a time where it's not going to be through, we can speak using our mouth if we want to, but we can speak through thought. But for now, I pull that all back in because I don't want to encroach on anybody's sovereignty. And most people who walk with empathy open back up into their awareness, as soon as they're able, they do pull it back and kind of like don't link into that ether realm of many voices, because it's confusing and it's hard to function when you're connecting with everybody around you, even at the grocery store, and you can hear their thoughts, and it's like so we get the option to block ourselves away from that. We have so much, and everybody there, nobody is left out of this. Nobody. And Christ talked about this when he was able to hear the thoughts and intentions of when he was talking to the religious people of that day. He could hear their thoughts and intentions. So these are not new things for us. For some reason, we've gapped ourselves so far away from what Christ came to teach us, show us through his life and teach us, and we've put him on such a pedestal, non-touchable, that we feel we're not worthy and cannot achieve this. But in truth, everybody, every single being that is mankind, we all have these within us. Everything is accessible. We are the ones gapping ourselves, just as we talked about earlier with limitation. We put the limitations on ourselves. We gap ourselves away from of things that are rightfully ours. And the limitation is huge, because when we gap ourselves with limitation, we're pretty much cutting off the main artery here of our existence, because everybody should be able to instantly manifest abundance into their life. And it doesn't matter what the neighbor has. There's no more coveting. There's no more of those type of thoughts going on, because everybody has access to the equal portions. There's no reason to desire. When we're at the level where we're coveting and desiring, we have what we call, willpower, okay? And through willpower, we can bring about such things through willpower, okay? And what that does is that starts that wheel of karma, reaping back what we sow, because we just took something through our willpower from another divine being, and whatever chaos they had to go through for our willpower being directly focused. And I think that's where the term witchcraft came from. They would come together and combine their willpower to one thought on the carnal level, and pretty much rob somebody else of health, wealth, or their state of being. And that's where I think that term came from, when the truth is everything's accessible to everyone equally, but we have to go about it in the right way. We have to remove the limitations that we put on ourselves. We need to reach for that higher place, reach for the God, the Godhead, and allow that to be our compass to renewing our mind and circumcising our heart, and understanding and learning how we can bring about these things into our life without harming another divine being. Oh, is it playing now for you, Viv? Yeah, interesting questions. Does anybody want to call and share in this conversation? I would be delighted to share the platform and have some beautiful voices come on and share what you guys know, so we can listen and grow, because we're all in this together. We're tethered together, whether we acknowledge it or not. We're unique, yes. We're individuals, yes. But the same spark of divinity that was given in the beginning by the Creator resides in me, resides in you, and resides in everybody. And this is how powerful we are, that we are able to gap ourselves by reacting to what we see in the outside world, and have that be our experience. We experience it because that's what we think. As a man thinketh, so shall he be. Right? I've been talking about spiritual law, and just to catch you up real quick, and about the divinity in everybody, and how we put our own limitations on ourselves, and we lack nothing, and basically that was pretty much it in a nutshell. And when we get to a point we're no longer gapping ourselves and thinking that we're not worthy or not good enough for everything, because one thing that I can tell you without any shadow of turning is that the Creator loves us and sees us in the complete perfection that we were created in his image, in his likeness made he them, both male and female. We were given not just the breath of life, but we were given a piece of God to reside within us. God wanted to have children, and here we are. And it's up to us to accept and go through the challenges of having to let go of some old things that we thought to be true. Read if you like the Bible, I do like the Bible. I read the Bible. If we want to understand ourselves, read it with your spiritual eyes, and then you'll see things in a completely different way. You are unique. You're divine. You're beautiful. You're exceptional. And we're able to even create a gap of limitation. That's how powerful we are, and experience it. The problem that a lot of us have, myself included, is that I reacted to the projection rather than recognizing it as a mirror reflection. And once we realize it's a reflection of our own creation from our heart and mind, and that's what we're dealing with, unless we are dealing with having to reap back something that is sown. But when we get to the point where we're understanding that it's a mirror reflection, everything gets forgiven. We get to a point where even if somebody is doing what I was like talking about with witchcraft and things like that, and trying to use their willpower, it won't stick, because we're just sending out love. How can you do anything but when you realize that we're all brothers and sisters and we're all in this together, and how beautiful and wonderful each of us are, and how much we all add to one another's experience here. So then we project that out of us, so anything that comes directed at us from another kind of a thought form or something, it bounces back. And if they thought about it, spoke about it, and then acted on it, it'll bounce back to them multiplied. And then so that could be an experience that we go through, because we sowed it out. But other than that, and like I said, we can clear out that balance sheet. We can completely wipe it clean when we recognize the divinity and the beauty and just how amazing everybody is, and how much we add and enhance this experience that we have for one another. Okay, hang on, Viv. I'll type it in here for you. 835. There you go. I think that's right. And when I get you, oh, my sky's 5D. Hello, you're fine. You're fine. We're just getting into taking calls now. The presentation part, now I want people to add to it, because we enhance one another by sharing and gleaning from one another. We grow so much by what we add to each other's life, what we share with one another, and the ways that we share it. They're unique, and by them being so unique, it adds in different colorful ways. Hold on a second, we got a caller, and okay, it's Viv. So let me you gotta unmute desktop. Hold on a second there. Where are you? Sorry guys, just give me a minute. I'm looking. There it is. Okay. Back here. And you are live on Awake and Activate. Oh yeah, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I did. Uh-huh. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's this has been something that's been going on for a few months, and I apologize that you were one. I heard you clear. So they're saying the sound is muffled.
Somebody said in the chat that
How's
the
it?
sound,
Whoa. Hold on.
my sky,
Yeah.
5D, here and now.
You should be able to hear her clear now. For some reason, I clicked the desktop. Whoa.
I
Now,
have to chat. I have to pop out of chat and back in. Oh, I'm hoping I'm able to be heard. I mean, I wish he would say something back like we can hear her now or something. I don't know. I'm looking down and at my other phone and not.
well, the desktop audio went off, but it's back on now, and now it's showing the bars that your sound should be coming through. You guys, let us know if you can hear her now.
Please,
If I fixed
someone.
it. If I fixed it.
Okay, yeah. Okay. GPK said, yeah.
He's awesome.
Hi. So I caught, you had said something just a few minutes ago, and when I read your title, I was like doing a lot of thinking about the title and really wasn't sure where you were coming from on that. And so so if you'd like, I'd share some of the thoughts that I had about your title, and then what you had said about, you were talking about limitations, and in my book, I'm talking about human limitations, and how human limitations. So we're on the same place now. I haven't been around for a while. I've become this very hermit person, which is really much needed. So I've kind of went indoors to myself, and I turned out you just disappeared off your screen. I turned out the world for a while, just like any kind of chatter from the outside world, so that I could, because there was a lot of chaotic stuff going on with the coronavirus and all that, and I really needed to go inward, just really go inward. And so I spent for me it's been 7 months, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, 9 months. So it's been 9 months that I've not really associated, with really anybody except just me and my higher power and my book. And in the book, I talk about human limitations, and you were talking about how we were, and in my book, I call it, of course, I use the word portions, okay? So I call us portions of God's light in my book. So you were saying, that we were all parts of this, and in my book, I word it, it's the same thing, sweetheart, but I word it as we are portions of this divine light, and that everybody has these portions, is a portion of this divine light. There's not one person that was not. And when I was looking at your title, because in your title you had said, jump in anytime you want me to be quiet. When your title said sin, I'm doing a chapter on sin right now, on the real meaning of sin. And I thought I would share from my studies of what I've studied beyond just the Bible about what the Bible meant by sin. Really frees us up. It really does. Would you like me to share my thoughts? I don't want to spill everything that I'm putting in my book, but I think that this is there. Of course, there's a whole chapter on it, but I think the chapter is called "The True Meaning of Sin and How It Affects Us." And are you there? Or did I lose you? Okay.
Okay, yeah, you know what? And we thoroughly plan on, as soon as you're done with your book, I want you to come on and let everybody know that it is out and available. And my goodness, what an honor it would be for you to do a little read for us. I mean, wow, what an honor. Yes, absolutely.
Well, I'd like to just share just a little bit right now about the concepts that, and you know what I've come to do in my life where I'm at right now is I'm still sort of like going back to what I would call a baby that doesn't, is learning on their own again, like all over again in my life, a whole new way. Because, of course, I'm an older woman, so I've already had my relationship with God for many years, but I've kind of backed out and came to this new vision, and I'm sticking with this. And so I would have to admit, I'm very sensitive to any outside influences right now. It's almost like my higher inner self within me and God is not wanting me to be influenced by anybody that at this moment. And I don't know how to explain that other than just saying it that direction. So
You're
where I'm at
empathic.
is real sensitive to what I'm putting.
Empathic.
And I believe that has to do with the three things that I wrote. Give me 1 second. I took a picture of something that I thought, before I go into what the concepts of what sin truly is. Let me get to this little photo I took. I have you right there on the page still. That's cool. I screenshotted something. Here it is. I screenshotted the 4 phases of the dark night of the soul, and that was the name of my fish. I don't know if you remember, I used to have a fish, and his name was Dark Night of the Soul. And with the dark night of the soul in the Catholic religion, of course, I'm not Catholic anymore, but they were the ones who kind of really had come out with it. It was the old traditional thing that said that a person had to go into darkness to find their true light. That once they went into this dark, dark place, they came out with a better understanding of their light. And in the 4 phases of I'm trying to stay focused, sweetheart. The 4 phases of the dark night of the soul are identity crisis. So we have all been there, I'm sure, where we've, finding out who we are and coming out of that identity crisis and finding kind of like really making our own place in this world of who we are individually as well as the collective. And then, and individually is very important. And then number 2 is the shattered belief systems. So for me, it was shattering the way the Bible was taught by religion for me. Okay, so I'm not going to change this. I'm not swayable in this because I had to shatter it because I spent so many years in different churches, Pentecostal, Baptist mainly, Catholic growing up, just basic Presbyterian. I mean, I was all over the place when I was in my 20s, and it wasn't until I, shattered the beliefs and decided that no matter what I was going to do, I was going to put the Bible down and not pick it up until I could interpret it for what it meant directly to me, not what it meant to anybody else. And it's really interesting because I think in this last 9 months of my life, even more so, the book has taken on a whole new meaning for me than, say, 20 years ago when I started doing this. Because as I'm writing my book, I'm, using Scripture in my book to, prove my points. And what I'm doing in my book is not to change other people's beliefs. This is just a book that really I'm putting out so that people understand how I believe. So if somebody gets something from it, great. If they don't, then it's mainly for my family to sort of get where I'm coming from. And then the third dark night of the soul is the withdrawing. So, of course, I've been in that phase where I'm withdrawing so that I can come out into number 4, which is transformation. And so it's like I guess you'd say a caterpillar, and it goes into that little thing, and it starts to grow, and it stays in there and gets a little cocoon. You can maybe it's dark in the cocoon, who knows, and then it just comes out transformed into this beautiful butterfly. So because I believe that different people come from different places, whether they're wounded, especially the wounded, this book is how to turn trauma into peace. That's what the book is called, Here to Be the Light, and it's how to turn trauma into peace. That's what the title is. And for people who are have been really, really wounded, they can't take God in the doses of what other people are pushing. Like, if, say, like, use an example. If you grew up in a home where a father was extremely abusive, you're going to have more of a hard time calling God Father, because, so that's not going to be the angle that that particular person is going to feel comfortable in getting in connection with their higher self out of them and their higher self within them. Am I making any sense so far?
Yes, and what you said about the darkness is exactly what I just pointed out on, in the scripture when you go through the revelation of John the Divine, when he talks about
I didn't hear any of it.
That's
so sad that I missed it.
Goes so much in conjunction with the man of sin being revealed in us, our temple, acknowledging that darkness, and then we have the power. We've always had the power to change ourselves.
Absolutely.
So even though you didn't hear that part, it is completely in line.
Well, I don't think it was an accident that today. I think it wasn't an accident today, Michelle, that you were like, oh, I'm gonna send Vivian that, because I was willing and more receptive today, because I had put some things on hold. Like, I put the book on hold because I didn't get to bed, I hate to say this, till 5:30 this morning, because I had a little weevil problem in my kitchen, and I have a beautifully clean kitchen, so the weevils took over some of my breads, and I had to do a whole cleaning. So I stayed up till 5:30, not working on my book, but cleaning weevils, And I was reading, it says you can eat your weevils and it's protein. I said, I'll pass on that. I'll pass on, but they got into a few boxes of rice and cereal, so I just threw that away, and I cleaned the whole pantry and ended it.
And I know I've seen your home. It's gorgeous. I know how you keep your home. And an orderly home,
so I stayed up.
allows you to be ready for more blessings. You know how it says, it talks about you clean the inside of your cup, right? And the outside is clean. But the same goes for our home. An orderly home, clean and orderly home. Once we get we're doing our inner work, and then what we'll do is we'll keep an orderly home. That means we're ready to receive more, because we can handle it and then help others and bring into their awareness the abundance that is withheld in every single person. Everybody has it. And you're talking about trauma. Okay, I lost my daughter in a traumatic event. She was alive and vibrant and healthy and ready to go. Came over and put her laundry on the bed that she was going to put in her suitcase for the taking her to the airport the next morning. And I got the knock at the door thinking it was her, but it was the coroner telling me that she was gone. I had to go through, okay, does God take people in and out of here at will? Well, if you look at it from this way, as her being a sovereign divine being, I know that with my near-death experience, I went to the place of choice, and we went over everything. We went over, negotiations on how I was going to return, because there was no pain where I was at. It was complete surroundings of, it was so vivid in color and vibrant, and the smells, or everything was so enhanced, nothing but pure love. And then when this being came up, although this being did not look like the Jesus that I have seen, like in images, the presence of this being was so powerful, it enhanced everything. He sat down next to me underneath this huge tree on that log where I was sitting, and just one with this environment. And we talked about how, he said I did not have to come back. And then we talked about how it would affect, the girl, the 17-year-old girl that hit me, how it would change her life, on knowing she killed somebody by cutting through the center lane and hit somebody with her car that was in a crosswalk. How the dynamics that would do to her. And we talked about my body. We talked about the physical limitations that could transpire. We negotiated on that. And then he showed me all those 3x5. They looked like white 3x5 cards, and they just went in succession. But it was like every probability and possibility for one individual's life. It was only one individual's life, and it seems like it was so fast. But my heart locked on to this individual, and this was their trajectory if I did not come back. I wasn't able, or I was blocked from remembering some of the things that were going to happen that I saw in that person's life trajectory that brought them to the condition that no matter which direction, it brought nothing but grief and sadness to them. It put them in such a depression that I couldn't handle seeing them in that way. I loved this person. And as soon as I made that decision after that long conversation, bam, I was back in my body. It was 6 days later, and I felt every inch of pain. But before that, I didn't even feel the car hitting me. I was in that Merkaba. I was overviewing. I saw my body laying there on the ground, in the street. I saw a bunch of people, gathered around. I saw the fire trucks and police. I saw all of that, and then bam, I didn't go through a light. There wasn't no light to go through or anything. It just morphed and changed into this other place that was, oh my God, the pure unconditional love of that place. So by knowing that, I know that everything that happened while I was in that place, I was my own judge. Whatever, it was my choice. I made the decision on what I was going to do. And so knowing that, I know that my daughter was not taken out of here for some kind of a punishment for me. It was,
absolutely.
It was, she was
absolutely not right.
And she was, I'm sure, was shown all the things that I was shown, and in negotiation with the condition of what her body was in compared to mine. Even though I was hit in a crosswalk and she was hit in a car, it crushed her torso, broke both of her legs, crushed her hips. She broke her neck, her arm, major head damage, head trauma. So there wasn't, they didn't even do an autopsy because her insides and by her torso, it was crushed so bad it was liquefied. So, what condition would she have come back in? And that was something, I remember discussing with this beautiful being that it would not do any good to come back to help one and change one life to become a burden where they have to take care of me for the rest of their life and then worry about, my parents have to take care of me and I'd have to live with them forever because I wouldn't be able to function and take care of myself. So much negotiation.
It was more of a saving grace.
Oh,
it was more of a saving grace to be taken from the body when you're in that much, that much turmoil has happened to the body physically.
And
the body's just a shell that we just reside in these shells. But when I left my body at one point, and I talk about this in my book, when I left my body during a serious beating, I actually saw the beating from above my body when I was 18. I was being pounded with a shotgun head to toe by somebody who was trying to kill me. And in the process, I knew at that point, by leaving my body and seeing it, that God had, I guess, to say, saved me from the pain of what I would have felt if I would have been in the skin. It was, of course, when I came back down into it, I felt everything.
Oh, yeah.
But at that point, I knew there was no way that we are anything but spirits that are being housed in these bodies, and that's it.
And that's what helps me to go through this, is knowing that because I was taken out of my body, I did not feel the impact of the car. I didn't feel anything. I was in that observing.
Yeah, that's great.
So just knowing that and having that experience, I know she didn't suffer any pain. She was taken out of her body and didn't feel any of that. And she went to that, that place of where all, and was shown things. And I know I've been there, and I'm going to tell you, she made the right decision. Because who would want, I wouldn't want her here suffering day in and day out. I just would not want that for her. I wouldn't mind taking care of her. That would not put me out, not one moment. I love my children so much. My goodness gracious, the loss of her, I think about her every day. I just completely and totally miss her. But I do not look at God and say, God, you took her. That's not how it works. And when people
Right,
stop,
right.
you'll stop fearing death. There's nothing to fear then of death, because I was taken out before feeling any pain. And I'm sure I'm not an anomaly here. I'm sure it works that way for
No,
everyone.
yeah. I mean, I understand completely because of my experience at 18. I did, at first I felt the first blow of the gun against my body, and then after that, I literally left and watched my body from above, and I was not feeling any of what was happening to it. And so that's just, I believe that's God's grace. That's what when they talk about God's grace, that's God's grace. A lot over the last few months, I think the hardest things for me was how I would deal with, in my mind, when I dealt with punishment, like going back to talking about, you were saying, it was not God punishing you or even punishing her. There's no punishment in this at all. And believe it or not, I'm about to tell you, there is no punishment, period. I don't live, my belief system does not have hell in the form that most people believe in. I do not believe that hell is being taught properly in the Bible, what it really means. But one of the interesting things was there's in where the New Testament, let me just make this real short, in the New Testament is where Christ had wanted us to follow the path of love, and that all the things that Christ died for, if you look back in the past, and of course these are my beliefs, that you don't have to take them, but all the things that were going on in the Old Testament is why Christ had to come die before those people back then, and of course us all the way to the future. It wasn't just just for them, but at that point in time, all the things that had taken place, the murders and the killings and the things that were really bad that went on in the Old Testament were being covered by Jesus' blood. It wasn't just for us now, it was for them as well. And that's why I find it very difficult to deal in a world where people are finding excuses for bad behavior and saying, well, they did that in the Bible. No, not in the New Testament. The New Testament was based on love. And one of the interesting things when I think about, love, is I realize that there can't be no condemnation, because it talks in the Bible that, there's no condemnation from God. And then all of a sudden it talks about all this punishment at the same time, and sin and all this stuff. And you're like, well, wait a minute. It can't be both. It's going to have to be one or the other for me. You can't just say, you can't contradict yourself in a Bible. So I came to the conclusion that through my writing, now, of course, I've been in a solitary condition for 9 months now, and in doing that, I go into prayer before I write, and if I wanted to be, say, a bitter person, or maybe I had some of my own human limitations that were holding me back from doing what was right, I could say, well, I wrote this book inspired by God, and then I could throw in there prejudices, angers, being against gay community, being against blacks, whatever it is, I could write those things too, but that's not me. So I believe that when the Bible was written, it was written by man, inspired by God. And so when I decided to find out about sin, because sin was probably the biggest holdback for me, in my life, I found that the word sin is defined as unripened. Now, to be unripened, if you're an apple and you're just not ripe, God's not going to punish you for not being ripe. But when we do things, and this is just my opinion, I believe that the Ten Commandments are more of a instruction manual that if we follow them, we live a smooth life. And when we don't, we punish ourselves by doing that. It'd be like if I added sugar to a gas tank of a car. So I've taken the punishing God completely away from my life and have found a place of peace that I can't even describe. I mean, I don't even feel like the same person. And I have a lot going on in my life right now. And I've gone through 17 years. I'm going on 18 years of incurable cancer with no chemo, no medications for that. And
Awesome.
yesterday I had such great news. My heart actually is no longer enlarged. And I do a lot of like self-talk, to my body and stuff. But it all came, from being unripe. And when I say unripened in life, because part of being unripened in life is not being grown up enough to see that the whole time our physical body can become ill from the things from our past. That illness can come from, not that we should blame ourselves and say, well, I had this really bad marriage, and of course it settled into my body as sickness. But sickness is an extension of stress. That I know. I'm a therapist. Sickness is an extension of stress. And so obviously stress being minimized. And one of the biggest stresses is what we do to ourselves when we believe that there's a God going to punish us and that sin is such a bad word. Oh, it's just taken to this extreme in the church that we shouldn't sin. No, it's not something we do. It's something we are. We're either unripe or we're ripe. And I don't know if I made any sense because, it's hard to put my thoughts together. And when I get on with you here, I try to, be real quick with things. But
There's no need.
once I realized,
I'll let you know if somebody else calls in and is on hold. You're fine. And I find that sin seems to be anything that we do to cause harm or create disharmony for another divine, sovereign, free will being.
Absolutely, I believe that, and I believe that when we put it in those terms, I actually have a thought about that. When we put it in the terms of so an action would only come of sin, an action of sin, of hurtfulness to someone else, would only come from somebody who is not ripened yet. Because if you're not ripe, you're not ripe. If you are ripe, then you know better. And so, and I don't want to use any examples because there's too many that's going on in the world right now, so I'll just make up one. So just an individual who's maybe having a really hard time in life and they feel a lot of inner anger, maybe some pain from their past or something, and, maybe isn't growing up, comes out into the world and then treats the world in a negative way or treats people in a negative way, and that negativity is their sin because we're supposed to love one another, but that sin is still meaning that they're just not ripened, that God is not going to punish that individual. We judge, we punish, we do that to other people, and that's not something we should do. We need to just realize it's hard. It is. I mean, discernment is important because, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where,
but there's
you have lunch with somebody every day.
Between discernment and judgment. When
Right.
you judge somebody, you're
and
judging them in a way that you're like, you're telling them that they need to change to conform to how you think things should be. Where discernment, you're gauging for yourself on what is a healthy situation for oneself.
Right. Is this person somebody?
Right.
Right. Is this somebody I
It's
should
not
be hanging
condemning
around
another. Right. You don't play in the freeway.
Right.
That's discernment. You know what I'm saying? And you don't hang around with, or you when you have children, you pick a certain neighborhood to purchase a home in based on the schools, or that's discernment. We use discernment, but discernment is not.
And discernment can also
breaking.
be calling things out for what they are. A lot of people I know that personally know me know that there's somebody that I dislike in the world right now that I'm not happy with because I'm watching that person's behavior and I don't like it. So I sometimes have to go into my closet and work through any human limited feelings, of like when I allow myself to become, close to the feeling of, say, maybe an anger feeling toward that individual. There's nothing wrong with feeling anger, but I don't like it. I don't like the way it makes me feel. So when I do feel, disheartened, would be a good word toward what's going on in the world right now. I have to, sometimes I'll go on a tangent with it, but then I'll have to pull myself back and say, you know, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to not discern it. I'm not going to say this is exactly what I'm seeing with my eyes and it's happening right in front. There's so many things right now that are so. I view the world sometimes as painful, just a painful place. It's something I'm not wanting to connect with all the time, you know. So I have to pull back and just go to my place within myself and say, look, you know. So I'm not. What I'm trying to say is I'm not perfect. Just because I know the concepts of things doesn't mean that I don't also do just like everybody else, having our moments. But so did Jesus. It's not saying, okay, well, just because Jesus did it, I should do it. It was more of a metaphor, you know, to say, look, I got upset with the tax people, and he turned over the tables, and he showed anger, just so that we could see. Because Jesus to me is my brother.
Yes.
And then God to me is not my father in that essence. I don't look at God as a father. I'm not one of them. I look at God as an energy of love. God is my creator.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not call God Father. That's not the direction I'm going there. But Jesus to me is my brother in flesh. And then that aspect of myself that is more in line with the light. It's like the idea of this. It's the idea of repentance. You know, people say, well, you have to repent your sin. No. Repent just means to return to the high places. There's a penthouse and a return to the high places. That's all it means. So when I find myself in this dark place toward another person, and I think we all know who I'm talking about, but if we don't, that's fine. But if I feel myself in a dark place, then when I feel that feeling in my heart that that's not the kind of feeling I want to have toward anybody, whether I know them personally or whether they're a movie star or the President of the United States, whoever they are, it doesn't matter. I know in my heart this doesn't feel comfortable, this discord that I'm feeling. Then I just return to the high places.
Hold on, my okay, it reconnected. My online software glitched for a second. It says it's back up and going.
So basically, and I love your little scene you have going on with the changing lights. But you know, so just let me say that last part, and then I'll be quiet. But just going back to the high place. That's all you have to do. You don't have to lay down and overly, you know, if you need to cry, fine, or if you need to do something. But one of the things I write about in my book is people's need to believe that they are bad. I had two people in my life who both died that I know. They're very good friends. One of them, I grew up with her. And before she died, way before she died, she said, do you think that God thinks I'm bad? No, you think you're bad. Everything you think, you create. Okay, let's look at it like this. God is the response of what you feel. So, for instance, if you're creative, you have a God of creative response. If you're fearful, you will have a God of fear response, because God is going to respond to you because you are not separate from God. So God is going to respond to you with whatever you're doing. That's why creativity always raises. I know I can't say his name, but preliminal. He's very creative, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you create something, that's your closest place to, when you're coming from your place of creation, that's your closest place to God. Now, I create food. I create, organization. Creating my book. I create a lot of stuff. But mine is not to paint. I don't paint. I would never be able to do that. I mean, I do it, but not to the degree that he does. But what I'm saying is, when we're in that place of creativity, when we're raising that vibration, that is where peace can come. Like when I started writing this book, and I will say this, I wrote the parts about peace first because I felt I had arrived there. But God had another story for me. And the first 5 chapters, I had to go back and turn around and then write my past in there. And I went through the shadow of the valley of death. And I'm not done, okay, but I am still doing some healing from that. But I wrote on one of my chapters, I have little quotes at the end of each chapter, and it says, it's just a shadow. There's light on the other side. Look for it. So it's just a shadow of a valley. It's just a shadow. That's all it is. It's, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil.
Exactly. Can we
So
touch
once
back?
we realize
I want to touch back on something
this is
before we
the
get
shadow, right?
before we get too far before we get too far past into our conversation on the person that bothers you. Using discernment, you can choose to not spend time, but when we actually allow our anger to flare up within us, we're actually then taking, because energy is neutral, and that's how we end up getting doing harm to each other and judging each other.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And
so use
absolutely, I hear you.
Yeah,
I hear
use
you.
discernment, and then we're not breaking any spiritual law, and we're not causing any harm. We're just choosing that, that's just not a healthy place for us to be, and we walk away in peace, still knowing they're divine and they're sovereign and they have the right to do. A lot of people may not have the understanding that you have about yourself within them, yet brewing and stirring about as we are stumbling around into coming into revelations of who we are and how we interact and how we affect our surroundings. So some people
Absolutely, like the water, the water connection.
Yeah.
We're connected. We all have water in our body, and water is. In fact, I have a chapter that I'm doing on water, and it's love is in the water. I think that's the name of the chapter. And so the reality is when we think something about ourselves, we not only, if we think something about somebody else, we've already put it into ourselves, and that's where the scripture, goes on to say, pull the log out of your own eye before, the splinter out of your brother's. So,
Right.
But the idea here is that what we think about, we bring about. So, and that is the only reason, Michelle, that when I feel these angers coming up and injustices that are being done to others, so I feel the anger for me comes from a place of the injustice I see being done. So once I see that and then I realize I feel that anger, I have to go back in, and then I tried to picture this person no longer around but not dead. I tried to picture him off on an island somewhere, sipping a margarita and having a great day.
Yeah,
that's
good.
And just sending.
That's good.
Yeah, I did that, and it was much better. But I can't. One of the things I can really press upon, though, is it's unhealthy to skip your first initial feeling. You have got to allow yourself to feel what you feel, but then you don't want to stay there. Because if you don't acknowledge what you feel, then you will never be able to acknowledge when something is not good for you. You have to first acknowledge something, and then it's all individual. I don't know if that makes sense. Everyone does this individually. Mm-hmm. When they come up, maybe you're going on a date with somebody, and you meet them, and it's not really the person you should ever go out with again. And if you don't allow yourself to have that protective shield that tells you this temperature is wrong, what will happen, and I've seen this one too many times, even in myself, is I was so afraid of dating because I was afraid that I would get hurt. So I put a steel bubble over my whole body to keep me away from people. I still do sometimes. But this 7 months was different. This was just all choice and completely different for myself. But putting myself in that bubble, then if I have a thermometer in my hand, it no longer will read the temperature of those around me that belong in my existence. And think about it this way. Say like the world was split into two dimensions, just the concept of this. So we're looking at just two, which we know there's more than two, but say like there's just two dimensions. The people in the other dimension that are not in my dimension, but within my same realm, they also really feel that what they're feeling is right for them. Mm-hmm. And so this is where respect comes in. And the act of respect is love. act of respect, to respect somebody and treat them with respect, is the actual action of love in action. Love is not a noun. It's a verb.
Yes.
It has to be moving. And so when I do feel we do need to feel our feelings, it's not about denial, because I used to believe that I had to shut off my feelings. And that was the worst thing that I ever did. But once I realized it was okay to feel them, I realized those feelings are radar. It's like a radar that God gives each one of us. We all have it, that discerns what should be within our realm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it helps us to realize quite a few things. You know, instead of thinking we're just flesh and bone, you know, blood bags or whatever, having this experience here, intuition, being able to have the emotions, to being able to think with our mind beyond what we see in the here and now, is all pointing in the one direction of saying we are much more than we've ever thought that we were. And to reach for it, go for it, go after it, seeking and knowing ourselves, and we have the power to change ourselves. And as I've noticed, as the changes are going on within, what happens is, instead of wanting to change everyone around me, I see that things around me just change. So I view them differently, and therefore I no longer think I need to change them, because I made a change in me.
Very good way to live. Yeah.
It kind of all falls into a nice harmonious way of being, rather than being in conflict of trying to control another. Just to control myself is enough.
Right. Here's a funny one this is really funny. I you know, as I'm growing in my life, you know, there's moments where I think, well, if this stuff outside of me would just stop, I would be at peace. And that's when, this was 7 months ago, you know, that I was having these feelings. And then I realized, no, everything around me can just play itself out. And as I change, even if it doesn't change, it has nothing to do with me. I can still be happy. I can still wake up and laugh. I can still wake up and smile. I've become, you know, I've been single now, 38, 39 years, and being by myself, but I never really felt the way that, even though this last 8 years I had actually quit dating, kind of gave up on that scene. But in the essence, I still now, even more so, that I just went in and had just like a love affair with myself. And the realization of who we really are. You are right. First off, we're already in fifth dimension. And so the revelation is there. Like in the old days, there was a band that used to play, and it was, the band was called The Fifth Dimension. And they talked about, one of their songs was The Age of Aquarius, you know, and harmony and understanding. Remember that? You know, you remember the age of, you know,
yes.
60s music. And but the reality is, when we reached into the age of Aquarius, we were all in this place now of waking up, and harmony will come. But even if, you know, I'm such a sensitive soul that if I see any injustices outside of me, like when you were talking about your daughter, my heart just ached for you, even though I know that you are where you're at. I still, I feel people, and I feel the feelings that, how strong you're. Like, you remind me so much of my best friend Sky. It's just amazing. The two of you. Her son was 23 when he got killed on a highway by a car, but he was crossing the highway. Oh. We don't even know what he was doing on there, but she's exactly has found these revelations, you know. And I took my pain and decided, I think it's a decision within yourself to decide to grow from that pain, because you have to find a way. You have to find a way when you've experienced such grief. But when I see people in this world suffering, that's where I have to be careful not to, because I want to fix it, and I know I can't. And I don't get out there and try like, you know, for years, I finally gave up on that many years ago, getting out there and just really overly trying to change other people. I know that that's never going to happen. But just to be myself, that's what, and of course I have different belief systems, and to me what it means to preach the gospel just means to love one another. That's what preach the gospel is. It doesn't mean go and try to shove people, shove things down into other people's throats of what they don't want to believe or they don't get. I think one of the real cool things that I say in my book is it's a personal relationship between you and God. That's why they call it personal. Mm-hmm. Because it is just personal. It's nobody.
And how much more personal can you get than God residing within you?
Right. I've had in my life, it was just really hard. I came from a very fundamental upbringing. My upbringing was very strict Catholic. I ended up going to Catholic school, and the nuns would slap my hand with the ruler, and it was very painful, and I had a painful God. And so the way I look at it, where I like to describe it as if you had an energy connected straight up, like a long, straight white light between you and God, and because of what other people had interjected into me, and I did not know myself, my light was like a Z going up. It wasn't straight; it was squiggly. And over the years, the squiggles started to go away. The Z effect turned into more of a wave, and now over the last 7 months, it's been a straight source coming straight into me. Mm-hmm. And I know, and again, I don't use the word sin because sin is just to be unripe. When I am unripe, when I am going through a moment of feeling my humanness, it's all about forgiving myself there too. And I'm going to say something really bad here. Mm-hmm. I have the tendency to lean toward feeling that the only way a person could stop hurting multitudes of people is if they died. And that came from my childhood and the destruction I went through. And I went through a lot of suffering over that. And I had my girlfriend, Sky, she'd say, well, that is your real feeling, but how do you feel about it? I said, I feel horrible that I would actually think that way, that it's ripping me to pieces, that I would, because I felt that was the only escape. So I'll just go ahead and say it. I came from an abusive relationship with my father, and then he died, and I was free from that. So that would be, when you look back at your childhood, that's whatever was embedded in you, that's your escape. You think, okay, so this person needs to die so that we can all, be at peace. And that's not true. We don't need to push anybody off the face there. Everybody's growing. Mm-hmm. Everybody is growing. Yep. Even that individual, but that individual that I'm talking about, I'm not going to say who it is, he may not be growing, but it's not my place. It's not my place to say whether he is or he isn't. But the thing is that I will say that I have such a hard time if I see somebody suffering. And I decided to back up over this last week and really take a look. And this is my assessment. That individual is suffering themselves. And when you're in that much pain, hurting people hurt others.
Yes, hurt people will hurt others. Yes.
Hurting people hurt others without trying to. It's not something they're doing on purpose, but they can't control it. You can't, there's that scripture that said you can't serve God and mammon. People automatically put mammon money, but mammon can be anything. Don't you agree? It can be anything you serve higher than God.
Yes.
So if you serve
money's not a bad thing.
You served higher than yourself.
Money's not a bad thing. Right. It's what we've all agreed to use as an exchange mechanism. Because I may grow lemons and you grow oranges, and you need lemons, but I don't need any oranges. So we exchange on something where we are able to exchange whatever it is that we offer, so that we could get whatever it is that we need. It's the love of money. So putting money over everything else. Yes. Right.
Like if you love money more than you love a person. I looked at your thing, and those are hands coming out of the sky holding those keys. Mm-hmm. on the picture. That is so beautiful.
Thank you.
And then there's somebody dancing.
Yes,
There's
I
someone dancing.
made this one just for you.
You know
guys.
what? This is so beautiful. I just feel like every time I see something that you put together, I just want to steal your pictures. I just want to steal your pictures. It's so beautiful. It just really is. It's yeah, I'm going to screenshot this so I can just keep it to look at. But that is so true. Look at all the keys. Look at all the keys coming down from this higher energy.
Well, Vivian,
And then
I'll send you the gift that I made. I made this animation, so I'll send it to you, and then you can use it if you want to.
I just love it. It's so beautiful. I mean, I'm just I didn't realize at first. I didn't see the fingertips, and now I see where it's just. And it's got, and even the liquid, the water spilling over can be just such a cleansing water.
And each of those
and the rainbows
unique,
in the back.
And it just shows our connection being unique, but all coming from the one.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
There just has to be, I have to admit, the topic I was talking about, I'm ready for some changes, but if they don't happen, I'm going to have to just take a grip on the way that I'm dealing with, or I'm not dealing with. Whether I'm dealing or I'm not dealing, either way I go, I have to get a grip over that after this next coming election. I have to just say it is what it is. Okay, Sarah, Sarah. What will be, and I'm not going to be moved by the storm. There was this man.
Perfect
his name
analogy.
was Jacques, or I think it was Jacques, and he said to me one day in a meeting that I went to many years ago. 29 years ago. He said, Vivian, serenity is not the absence of the storm, it's the stability within it. Keep smiling through the storm is a sign I have in my garage when I go to get in my car, and it's a big, huge poster. It has this person smiling, and it says, keep smiling through the storm, at least you'll have clean teeth.
That's great. And it is always in our control. It's always in our power how we react. It takes inner work in order for us to establish that, to not be reacting to what we think is a projection, and to see it as a mirror reflection.
Have you ever felt like this, though, in your life? Have you ever noticed that there was not a lot of things in your life that you really felt angers toward, and that you really felt, and then there would just be this one thing that would take place, like what's going on right now, and then you felt bad about yourself because of it? So that was the struggle that I was going through, because I don't spend my time. I know a lot of people who spend roller coasters of anger all day long, and it's just a choice of an emotion. I mean, if they want to live and choose anger, they can still do that. That's an option. It was given to them, but it's not going to help them live at peace. And the idea here in this realm is to find peace, love, and forgiveness. And when I say finding it, I mean living it.
When you find it, you'll find out it's all within us. All the work that we see, that we're seeing outside, that makes us angry, or things that are going on that people use bitterness or things of that nature. When we do that work within ourselves, all of that stuff will just fade away. We will no longer give it power over us or allow a reaction.
That's the word.
Yeah, we won't give it.
Don't react to it.
Don't feed into that energy. Don't give it power. When we stop giving our power away and start utilizing it with our own abilities, being aware of our abilities, it's a life-changing event that happens for an individual. And as it spreads out, it will then affect on the quantum level. But in the meantime, somebody can have a hellish...
What you're basically saying is by detaching with love, listen, then we send that love, and then we should be able to collectively, as a collective consciousness, instead of just one consciousness, but as a collective consciousness, and then we will create that love and unity. But it's such a sometimes it feels like such a hard thing to get to when we, that the collective. Do you know what I mean? Like what would it be like? What would it be like if the world all got into collective energy? Do what now?
It'll be paradise, because when people are reacting to the projection, what's projected around them, what they think, they have to deal with, and they don't quite understand what part they're playing in it actually being a mirror. People, let me finish what I was saying earlier. As an individual, we could be walking in a different realm. It seems like a completely different realm of reality, a renewing of our mind. We could be walking right next to somebody, side by side, that is having a hellish experience here, while we are having a heavenly experience. The idea is, over time, when these people decide they want to make the choice for themselves, they too will step into knowing their identity and then growing in it, and then also having that mirror reflection reflect back what's going on within them, having that heavenly experience. It can happen on a unique individual basis, because we all have that choice. But it can also happen on a collective. And when it happens on a collective, if people are gauging themselves off of the projection that's going on around them, when they're seeing only paradise around them, they will, even if they react to paradise, it will be a reaction of peace and blessings and just abundance poured out on them. And then the reveal will come to them within them over time of their true identity and their essence of the amazingly, you guys, we were made so wonderfully, and that nothing is by mistake.
It's exciting, isn't it? It's exciting to know.
It really is.
When you think about that, it really is. And I feel like, because sometimes I feel like I'm there, and then of course I have my moments where I slip back, but not, like what I'm trying to say. Like my girlfriend, Sky, she's got it down. I mean, she's older than me, and she's just like, for whatever reason, she's been able to put herself in the position where she does not create from what is going on outside of her. It's all created from within, and I mean, I don't know if anybody fully in this realm, completely gets that. And what I don't want to do is put out the idea that if I go too far with something, like I'll try to use an example. When I used to go to the church, when I was involved in basically going to an actual church, mm-hmm. I used to see people around me, and I would always think these people have these perfect lives, that they had no struggle, and that they just had this perfect life, and that I was living in what I thought was absolute hell at the time. And so I decided that I was going to, they kept telling me, well, you need to baptize, and once you're baptized, things will be good. So I used to go, and I'm laughing at myself. I got baptized 29 times. Now I know that is funny. I got wet a lot. I did, but here's the deal. I'm laughing over here with you. I try to laugh without coughing. So when I would get baptized, I would be under the water for a second, and I would believe that the minute I came out, now hear me out, I believed all my pain was just going to be gone, and when it wasn't, I was devastated. And so now hear the story. So it wasn't until I realized that God is my comforter, that it's not that even if I don't, if I don't get rid of something completely, God comforts me through it. Mm-hmm. Instead of God being my punisher, then God became my comforter and held me in the palm of God's hand. At that energy held me up and gave me the strength to be able to get through the next day. I mean, a lot of this is mentioned in the book, but one of the things that I will say is it's easy for an individual who's been through serious trauma to believe within their mind that there should be this miraculous change. And when there isn't, there will become doubt. Because to allow ourselves to realize that the reality is, in this human life, there's going to be these peaks and valleys. It's like, a roller coaster, up and down, but it gets to where when the ride becomes easier, when you accept yourself, and you accept that you accept comfort and accept yourself, that's when the ride gets easier. It doesn't necessarily make it 100% perfect, I don't think, in this particular realm, but I do believe we are working toward this is what I put it this way. When I came into this place, I must have asked my higher powers before I came into this realm, let me deal with everything all at once, so that my next life I would just be completely clean of it, And so I just took on a whole lot of stuff.
Well,
and this is the happiest I've been in my life.
Let me give you
ever, to be honest.
An observation on that, if you don't mind. There's a lot of people that have volunteered to come back, that have graduated Earth School, but they have volunteered to come back at a time such as this to lift up things, to be a light for others to look upon and say, how are you doing this? How are you able to accomplish these things? How are you able to pull abundance from lack? And it brings glory to the Creator.
Oh, I like that, full abundance, yes.
And so then they look upon you and they examine. And a lot of times the challenges that a volunteer may face, because you come from a pure, unconditional love state, you've already graduated, you've self-identified, but you volunteer to come back. And anybody who comes into this matrix, into this realm, we get a mind wipe to forget. And then over time, whatever we negotiated before we came in, we could have wisdom drops come in that bring us back to the awareness. Now, in the meantime, some of the things that we will endure in life may seem catastrophic. And others will look upon it going, oh my gosh, I'm thankful I didn't deal with that. But then they see your light shining after going through such a phenomenal hurdle, and then they're drawn to you. What is it that you know? And then with their free will, they will ask. And then with their free will, they will do the inner work. They will seek. One of the things that I found very interesting in this walk is that no matter what gap we think that we can put between us and God is always within us. But this is how much we're loved. And God only sees us as the perfect beings that He created us in the likeness and image of, with the essence, the pinnacle of creation, with such unconditional love.
Yeah, see, you said
equally.
The essence, and that points to, that points to it.
But He doesn't. He does not force His way.
I see it more as we are actual portions of God. So it's the same for me. Yeah.
Yes, so that's how God is all-seeing and all-knowing. Okay, but never does He force, or she or it force its will upon us to do anything. It's constantly patient, pouring out unconditional love on the object of its affection, which is you, but waits until you are ready, and you, with your free will, ask. And when you ask, whenever any kind of doubt comes in, we cancel out anything we've asked for. It just immediately cancels it out. So you have to ask without doubt, and you will go through the steps, and it will be revealed, and it's a beautiful thing. And just the concept of knowing that the entire time God's been in me, with me, walking, with me through this life, but never ever subjecting me or trying to steer my life in any direction. I was gifted, and as a spiritual being, free will. And with my free will, I called out. I began seeking. Then God made Himself known. And when God makes Himself known, then it's like, oh my gosh, you know everything. You've been with me my whole life. You saw me doing this, that, and the other when, you know, in my darkness. And, you know, we get a little embarrassed for a little while. And it's like, but it's life changing. And like I said, a lot of people have volunteered to come back because, you know, to lift. And you will go through some things that are, you know, that some would say, oh my gosh, just like you were talking about with my daughter, you're so strong. I'm not. I miss her every single day. I love her so much, and it still hurts my heart that I do not have her here. But at the same time, I know, because I've seen her in my dream state, I know I'll see her again. And that's not it. It's just I miss the hugs. I miss the kisses. I miss the conversations. I miss hearing her voice. I hear her voice in the dream state, but it's not the same as sitting down physically and having a conversation with her. You know, so, but they look at things like that and say, how can you still be telling people how wonderful they are? Which is absolutely one. I won't say it unless it's truth. I try to stay, you know, and if as I grow and in my understanding and I change my ways over time, I'll admit I was in error there, and I've grown to know that this is where we're at. This is where I'm at now. Because, you know, think about being an infinite being. You don't have a beginning of days. You don't die. You don't have a beginning. You don't have an end. Okay, you're an infinite spiritual being having a physical experience here, which is beautiful in itself. You've got every power. Everything is within us. We just don't remember. And as we go through this, our memory is restored. Abilities and gifts start to open up. You touched on your empathic gifts. You said that you just could feel everyone around you. That's empathy. Now, empathy can be looked at as a double-edged sword. When it first opens up, that first portion, you feel everybody around you, and it's chaotic. You don't even want to go to the grocery store.
I've been like this my whole life. I've been this. I came in like this.
So and, you need to come to the next
really,
portion.
What I've had to do is learn to ground myself and say what is yours and what is mine.
Yeah.
That I can feel for you, but I don't need to let it take over me. So that's been my challenge. That's because this girl came up to me once at a class reunion. She came up to me and she's somebody I've known my whole life, and she said, well, I want what you have. And I thought to myself, whatever it was she felt she didn't have, she thought I had something better. But the reality was I was still within my struggle, but I just looked at her and I just said it takes a lot of work. So it does take work.
Oh gosh, nobody's going to say it doesn't take work.
It's not going to just fall into your lap. If you want something,
when you have to let go of
it takes work.
When you have to let go of your complete way of thinking and come into a new understanding of who you are,
right.
It's work. But let me finish with the empathic thing. You know, you feel everybody around you, but that's like of the psychic level, because you're hearing and feeling many sources as them being individuals, not yet just to the one voice of God that is residing within you. So, but you get to the point where you're able to pull that back, and you can transmute that energy. You're able to heal other people with energetic services, prayer, the power of the word, seeing them whole and projecting that out upon another. What kind of love is that you are projecting such wholeness and beauty to befall another one of our brothers and sisters? Actually, I have an example I want to bring up real quick that just happened a few weeks ago. They're in the chat room.
Well, remind me when you're done with that to mention about like going into your closet. Okay, just remind me of that.
Yeah. Spend time in that prayer closet. Oh my God. But there's somebody that's actually in the chat room that was not feeling well at all. And I just, they let me know they weren't feeling well. And at the end I said, I'm going to pray for you. Well, I went and prayed. And of course I pray with, I never affirm illness or anything on anybody. I seen him whole, healthy, 100%. Well, he went into prayer and had an instant manifestation. instant manifestation. He asked and received. The next morning, I opened up and looked at our messenger, and he had told me, and this was shortly after he told me that, you know, he wasn't feeling well. He said, I went into prayer and I feel better. So he went, he prayed, he asked, he received instant manifestation. And that is how we're supposed to be living, with instant manifestations going on like miraculously in our life. And now back to you with the closet.
Well, so now for me, I never ask for anything. That's not how I do with God. I always am more just, I look at God as a place I can just go and curl up on the lap of and feel safe. That's my thing. And I never ask. I'm always just more of just go with the flow. So I don't want God to be Santa Claus to me, because what I used to do when I was a young girl, I used to ask, and I liked it. I listened to what you had to say, and I kind of thought, well, maybe I, could ask for stuff, but I don't really think of asking. I think I more manifest it through believing it and seeing it the way that I want it, and then it'll come too. But going back to that, when I was young, I would say, I would ask God, and then when I wouldn't receive, I would feel upset as a child. So I realized for me, that's not the direction for my life. I don't pray in the way that, I don't know, everybody has their way of prayer. I usually just believe in doing energy. Now, you were talking about going into life and helping and healing others. I spent 29, 30 years as a therapist, and this last 9 months, hey, 9 months, the delivery. This
Nice.
last 9 months of my life of shutting down and going into myself was, because at a young age, I actually became a therapist, and I became a personal life coach and all this stuff, and I spent all my life being able to I could just put my hand on somebody and could go in and literally do a soul retrieval and clear out their stuff. But what I needed was time for myself. I needed to go in. This is really weird. I needed COVID to happen, okay? I needed to be able to stop and just say and have faith that no matter what, I was going to be okay, no matter what. And I had some trials right in the middle of, losing my work right now. I lost a couple of tenants, but now I've got another tenant. And so, but there was always just the realization that if I stayed within this feeling that God took care of me, it wasn't but like 3 days apart before I'd have, and now I've got a really good tenant for the last 4 months. So
That's what I was going to say, because the last tenant
I'm saying is I didn't
go.
get, as long as I didn't allow myself to go into the fear, I would not create more havoc for myself. Mm-hmm. We create for ourselves. We create in our own minds everything. We are creators. Whether people realize that or not, we create very quickly. Everything is a fast manifestation. The girlfriend I keep mentioning to you, she says that it's like I've been given this really strong gift to manifest very quickly. She watches me do it. But she says it's almost like if you were to come to me and say, well, Vivian, you've got this awesome manifestation gift. Why don't you use it? So that's how she feels about me sometimes, because it's like I'm not in touch with the fact that I actually do it, but I usually do as long as I stay within that. I don't know how to call the space that I'm talking about. I don't really know the word for the space, but when I stay in a space of faith, that would be it. The space of faith that I am okay no matter what, and that God loves me and cares for me. This last 9 months, I have not wanted for food. I've had all my bills, all my needs are met, and I'm not working. And so, it's like I realized that.
That's pretty miraculous, right?
Right. And trust me, trust me. And even yesterday, when the weevils decided
hold on
to
a
eat
second.
the food.
Before I forget, and we're on your weevil story. Michael Fontaine wants me to say hello to you.
Ah,
He's
hi, Michael.
he's listening.
Michael
And
Fontaine.
Michael Fontaine? What?
Fontaine.
What? Yeah.
We just love your name.
I do love his name.
Yeah. Hi, Michael. Hi, Michael. So yeah, when it was really interesting because these weevils only ate like maybe 4 or 5 things in my closet. Everything else I was about to salvage. And then I thought about it. Well, they must have been hungry. They must have been hungry. So I've had enough food. I'm cared for. I had a lot. I went.
Okay,
when I
hang on, Vivian. We didn't do it right. Let's do it again. I'll start. You do it, and then I'll finish. Okay. Michael Fontaine.
Okay. Michael Fontaine.
Michael Fontaine. What? Let's hope let's hope he's happy with that. Okay, now the weevils must have been hungry, so they ate it.
So they must have been hungry, and no matter what, I mean, first the raccoons needed a place to live, and so I have this 2-story home, and I have like an attic space between. And so back in March, when all this COVID first started, I'd gotten really sick in February, really sick, and so then after, I think it was March, the raccoons literally moved into my attic, and we're having a party up there. I mean, it was so bad you couldn't sleep at night. They were rolling and tumbling, and I was waiting for them to come through the sheetrock. That was this huge expense in the middle. It was like $7,500 of damages, and right in the middle of me just now, I'm not going to be able to do my job. And then the next expense came. My refrigerator broke down, and I lost all my food and all the stockpile that I'd had. And I'm a real like weird person about the way that I eat. So, I had like really expensive soups that I'd homemade and frozen. So I lost everything. And then I ended up with a nicer refrigerator, and now I've got a refrigerator and an outdoor freezer in my laundry room, and I still have my box freezer in my pantry. So, in the end of trials and things that seem really dark, it's all perception, people. It's all perception. Mm-hmm. If I could stress myself out last night, or I just took a roll of tape, I took bags of Ziplocs, I took my scissors, I took a marker pen, and I sat down at the counter, and one by one, there is something, and I don't remember what it was, which scripture it is, where it says, where he's talking to him and he tells him to be content in all situations. Be content. Be content could also mean be peaceful through it. And so I just sat there, and I'd ended up 5 o'clock in the morning, and I kind of had fun cutting out all the little names and the labels and stuff. I allowed myself to say, okay, this is just what I need to do. And next thing you know, it was 5:30 in the morning. I went to bed, got up and did another 4 hours on the pantry. But now my pantry looks, woof, it looks hot. I love it. But the thing is that back in the day, I was more apt to see a situation and attack it with stress and fear versus just looking at it and going, okay, this is just something that's going on. It's all perception. Mm-hmm. It's just a shadow of the valley of death is just a shadow. A shadow is an image. It's an illusion. It doesn't exist. Nothing is really happening to us when we think something is happening to us. I mean, I don't put myself in situations anymore that were not good for me. I know you know what I'm talking about.
That's discernment, right. And that's good.
That was discernment, yes. And so, I'm not going to just, if there's a glass door and I go walking and bang it once with my face, I'm not going to go back and continue to keep banging that glass door. I'm doing what I can do to say, what do I want to eat of in this life? What do I want to put into myself? And it's not about judging either. It's really interesting because I realize that if you were to take people and put them in different classrooms, everybody is at their level they need to be in.
And it's okay.
We need to. Yeah, it's not like I might, because, I'm not saying, I'm a high class and you're a low class. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that those classrooms are all different places that for different levels of growth, and you can't go back. You're not going to go back to first grade when you're in the ninth grade. You're just not going to do it unless you're going to be a teacher or
And
or
that,
something.
that
I
really
mean,
helps with respecting one another, is to know that regardless if people are aware or not, they are doing these things. It's our nature. We are powerful beings and we are creating whether we know and we're aware of it or not. So when we become aware
or what
of
they're
this,
using their creativity for,
well,
or what are they using it for? Like, are they
if they're
they may not
reacting,
even know.
that's right. If they're reacting
Right.
to the paradigm that and they're scared or whatever, they're still mirroring that paradigm out. It doesn't matter the level of awareness. Everybody is doing these things by nature. It is our nature. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience. It's just up to us when we want to, when we make the choice to seek, knock, and persist to learn, who we are in truth, how we were made, how are we created, what are we able to do here. It's not like God is Santa Claus, by no means. We are the ones who are perceiving, and if we perceive lack or that we don't deserve, well, then that's what we will create for ourselves. That's
Yes,
the power
because
that we
that's right.
hold.
Because God is that's the God response. See, God will respond to you with what you believe. So if I wrote a poem called "The God Response." I don't know it by heart, but it's in my book. I did put it on one of my chapters. I don't know which one off the top of my head, but God will respond to us with what we believe. So, for instance, if I'm fearful, I will get more fear. Or if I say, "Oh God, I'm alone and I want you to give me a mate." Well, that's ridiculous, because now God is going to give me more aloneness, because I've just told God that I'm alone. So I'm creating by asking what I don't. When I say ask for something, I'm saying I lack it.
Well,
Immediately saying that I lack it.
When you say, okay, if I was to ask, well, I'm satisfied with what God has provided me. I've got my life
Right.
partner by divine right. We all have divine rights. When we're asking, it's because we're not ready yet to wield that power within ourselves, even though we're still wielding that power, but we're reaching to that higher level to bring us the one that is the correct one, for us to stop picking out the wrong
what
man.
I gained out of this? I just didn't gain that out of it at all. In the 9 months alone, I've decided this is where I want to be. See, I decided that it was just a stigma or like going along with the crowd. The realization is the only reason I was ever alone was because I chose to be alone.
You're never alone, honey.
Even though I look...
Never ever.
No, I'm not.
I know.
No, listen. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about with the special mate, the husband, or the relationship. That's not in this for me, and I necessarily don't really want that. But I wasn't willing to really accept the fact that I didn't. I've been alone all these years without that type of relationship, that form. I'll use the word form.
Mm-hmm.
So that form of relationship I did not have. But I was choosing to I wanted it a certain way, and if I didn't have a certain way, I didn't want it at all, but I wasn't willing to accept that. But let me say something else about manifestation, because it's a really, really interesting topic, because as I tell you it, I realize I do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I never go to God in prayer. I go to God in comfort. So I go into my closet time just to meditate and be in the loving arms, so to say, of this higher energy engulfing me and healing me. That's the only reason I've lasted 17, almost 18 years now with cancer, incurable, without any chemo, without anything. And my doctor, I just was on with her on Tuesday, my cancer doctor from MD Anderson, and she's so in shock with me. She doesn't even know how I'm here, because I don't believe cancer kills. What you believe, you receive. Mm-hmm. Everything that you feel, we could say it over and over, you believe it, you receive it. But then people are like, well, I'm going to sit and make myself believe it. That's not what it means. What it means is getting down into that deep part at the back of your head. Have you ever been, this is just the only way to describe it, have you ever just imagining something without even trying, and next thing you know it happens, mm-hmm. right?
Mm-hmm.
You're just like,
You've
you're
seen
just thinking
something
of
in your
something,
mind's
right? Have
eye,
you ever,
and then or think of a person, and then they
right, and
call
then
you.
it just happens.
Mm-hmm.
It just
Mm-hmm.
happens, but not because you forced the thought in there. Like okay, most of the things that have ever just come to me without fear, but in a more visual sense, have always come true. Like things that just come to me, even bad things that have happened in my life, when they've come in a peaceful wave, I'm prepared for them. And then one recently happened, and I was like, why? I asked myself this question. I kind of giggled and laughed at myself and said, well, why did you even have even one moment of shock that this happened? Even if it was just a hairline from 1 to 10 of a shock over something happening to me that I already knew, I had already visualized and saw it, and because that was a warning for me, and it was about to take place, but it was about me, God giving me a vision prior to it so that I would handle it better. I don't know if that made sense. So sometimes
Yes,
when I'm talking,
more
I want to make sure
than you
that I'm
know.
making sense.
More than you know.
So
We'll talk
basically,
off when we're
going
off
back
air
to
about that.
manifesting.
Yeah.
So how to get what you want in life is, I hate to say this, is not to want it. Because once you say I want something, you're saying you lack it. It's to just know you already have it. It's not, I'm not talking about, okay, I need a car. I'm just not a material person, even though my home's beautiful. Now, isn't that weird? I was given all the things that I didn't really necessarily think I wanted, but the one thing I always wanted was love with a relationship, right? Well, I thought I wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent all these years alone, right, without really having the romantic relationship, right? Because I really didn't want one. I wanted to be free to be me. And I wrote so much poetry. This is so amazing that I'm actually sharing this with somebody. I wrote so much poetry over the years, and you can find my poetry under Vivian Ennis at medium.com. Please, if you hit clap 50 times, or if you don't like it 50 times, clap 20 times. But I get paid for like a half a cent for every 50 claps. And if you hit one clap, it's like, that's kind of an insult. But if you like my poem,
Gotcha.
you know, if you like my post, a lot of people don't know that the clap button is not like a like button. They think it's a like button and they hit it once. You can clap between 1 and 50 if you like the person's poetry. But in my poetry, 90% of my poetry was always talking about, are you ready for this? This is crazy. Lots of my poetry would say, and then I was set free. And then I was set free. And I spent my time, all my poems almost for a long time, not all of them that I did, but all of them within, say, the 90s and the 80s, 90s that I wrote, that a lot of them I posted on there. And not every one of them is on there right now because I'm in the middle of that, but there was always that theme, you know, I was set free, and then I was set free. And so I wasn't, even if I was set free and I was single, I never felt free until I realized I liked being with me. And I wasn't willing to do that because I thought if the Joneses had a relationship and everyone around me was married in my neighborhood, and I see them outdoors, you know, when I'm washing my dishes, I have a big bay window that looks out over everybody, and I'm like, oh, look at them go. And then the realization was that not everyone who has a relationship is happy either. They're not, because they're seeking inside of another human being. And some people have a good relationship like you have that gives you the opportunity to not squander your identity and allows you to continue to grow within yourself. When you're in a bad relationship, and I'm not going to get into too much on this, that individual can suffocate your ability to be able to allow you to continue to grow. You can be, suppressed, under the suppression. Mm-hmm. And so I was so suppressed as a child and in my first marriage and my second marriage that the fact that I am single for as many years, I've actually found that peace with myself. And I like being able just to be able to not be on somebody else's watch. But I never wanted to admit that to myself for years, even when you first met me, Michelle. I wasn't willing to admit it to myself. Because if I really wanted one, I can manifest it. I can think in my mind, and I promise with all sincerity, this is how powerful all of our minds are. I can think in my mind right now that I want somebody and the next day something will show up in the form of it, whatever it is. And then I have the chance and the choice right there to reject it or to receive it. It's all, and I'm not talking about material stuff like a Mercedes Benz. Those things don't mean nothing to me. That's not where I set my treasures in this world. I set my treasures on wanting to love and be loved and to give love and to give respect to other people, and also learning that the only way, to be respected myself. Because I don't believe that respect and love are a separate word. I have a chapter on this. What is love? The reality of love, fear, and guilt, I think it's called. The reality of it. The reality is love is respect. When my son told me one time, he was being very, very rude to me, and he said, "But I love you." I said, No, that's not love. Love is an action. It's something you're doing at the time, and you can have moments in any situation where you're expressing love and being the love or not being the love.
And love is not
manifesting
conditional.
stuff is very easy. Go ahead, sorry.
And love is not conditional. It's unconditional.
Right, so absolutely. So God's love is not conditional.
That's right.
God is not up there saying you're a sinner and you'll always be a sinner. You will not always be unripened. You will eventually ripen, and you might leave this plane when you do and head to another dimension, whatever it is you believe in, whether you believe it's heaven or if you believe it's just another return here. Hopefully in a different year, though. For me, I'd rather be 4 years out from now. Okay, let's just say that. I'll come back in 2025. How's that?
I'll tell you what. I had a dream before. This was in 2015, and it was a dream where I saw a big screen television. It was split in half, and it looked like the left side of the television wasn't even on. It was completely dark. But the right side of the television, it had cloth, tablecloths, china, crystalware, goldware, and Mr. Trump was walking around shaking hands, and I heard over a loud PA that 269 electoral votes had been counted and cast, and I had no thoughts one way or the other on the election, wasn't even thinking about it. I told my husband about it, and he looked, he's like, "Oh my gosh, Trump just raised his hand and went in," and this was when he was up against those 17 other people. This year, however, I had an odd dream. I was in a Capitol building, so and it was odd. I know it was a Capitol building because they have those white pillars, and it's all marble. It was a beautiful building.
Right.
And Joe Biden walked up to me, and we had a full-on conversation about how I introduced a bill into this state to become a law, and I call it Shannon's Law because, and before they give it a number and whatever, penal code or whatever, I want to introduce a bill where if a fatality happens in a crash, that all drivers, no matter what, are drug tested and toxed to see if they're under the influence or whatever, which created the dynamic that caused a life to be lost. Especially she was sitting passenger, so she had no control of anything. So if somebody loses their life, I think that it should be protocol that the entire thing is investigated. Don't just right now they have to have probable cause. Well, they smelled an odor of alcohol, but the one that they thought it came from had no alcohol in their system. So it had to have been the other driver. In the meantime, they did not do any testing on him, so there's no affirmation of proof. So this is something, that part of it I was researching and thinking about. But for it to be Joe Biden that walked up, he was very kind. He talked over the process with me, what I needed to do. He talked to me for quite a while. He was very gentle, very polite, very kind-hearted, and then told me that he would stand behind it. So to start the process, and when I woke up, I'm like, what the heck am I dreaming about Joe Biden for? But the only thing I could think of is that I dreamt in January of 2015 about Trump. So we shall see. And I don't have a pony in this race. I see these elections and everything that's going on is duality, ugliness, mudslinging, slandering each other. And
Yeah, it's
that's
too
not what we should
painful.
be doing to each other. We should be, loving unconditionally, no matter what level of
Absolutely, yes.
awareness. So I stay away from all of that and just mind my own business on that. I
Well,
don't
you're
put.
luckier than me because I let myself get dragged in, and then but I think I'm desensitizing and I'm detaching. I'm working on this and using this as a way to love with detachment, to detach with love. Not necessarily, that's has been my journey. I will say something, and I just hate to admit it, but Donald Trump is like my father. They're just
Yeah.
identical. The whole "I haven't grown up yet" concept, and I see the pain now. Though I've decided to shift and visualize, and understand his growing up years and who he is. And nobody's going to say that those things. Being a therapist, I understand the whole connection to it. And once I was able to do that, in the middle of all this, in the middle of whatever does take place, whatever is going to come of it, whether it's Biden or Trump, this is going to be it's not a test. I don't believe God tests us, but we can use this as a test of our own faith for ourselves to get through another 4 years. I'm not going to judge it. I'm just saying I don't like ugliness. I don't like to be around it. I don't want to be surrounded by it. So, like, if you weren't on the phone with me right now, I'm in a room right now with my TV. I never really turn my TV on. So I can be in this house for hours and hours and hours in silence. Just there's no one here. It's just me. My tenant does not live in the same space. It's an apartment above me. So I'm always in this solitaire place. And I believe that COVID was another step for people to be able to really go in and do some inner work. I mean, that's just my belief. Because it was able to put me in a position for me to say, okay, my job is dangerous right now, and so I'm not going to do stupid stuff, being high risk, and so of course I'm going to be cautious regardless. I'm not going to I'm not going to throw caution to the wind because I have faith in something. And I don't really know how to say this, but I was researching different types of religious beliefs towards the pandemic. And I came across a group, and is it okay if I just mention the group? I'm not going to say the name of them, but talk about it.
You're fine.
On your show. So I came across this group that believes that they want Trump to be president because they want it to be the end of the world.
Oh my!
And it was shocked to me. I started studying them a little bit more. I don't know their name or what they are, but it's just a group of people on YouTube, and what they're wanting is they're wanting it to be revelations. They want to die. So God gave us this gift of life. This is the gift of life. And when my mom passed away, I took myself in my backyard. I had went to see my mother. I'm going to tell you about my mother's death, okay? I went because there's a reason behind it. I went to see my mother in Georgia in hospice, and I had to come back for a sinus surgery that really ended up messing up my sinuses, which really connected me every time I have a sinus issue. It used to connect me back to my mom and to the pain of her death. It's not so bad no more because I'm desensitizing from it. But when I came home, I had to come back because I was about to get the surgery. So my mom died 3 days after I left. And, of course, that feeling that says, if I would have stayed, maybe she would have still been over here. But here's the deal. She always told me, my mother was very spiritual, and she also used to let the church control her until she finally pulled away and found her own peace with God. And she told me, she said, if I'm away from my home more than 7 days, where I know I will not go back home, I will die on the seventh day. And that's what she did. She went home, to whatever we call it, wherever she's at, whatever dimension she's at, she moved on. So I came home, and I was struggling, because I didn't get to go back to the funeral. And in a way, it was meant that I didn't go back. Because if I would have went back, I would have been clawing onto her casket and making what we would call a terrible scene. I would have never I was the one who used to, as a child in bed at night, I used to always cry and worry about my mom. What if mom dies? What if mom? As a child, I was like this. So I was so attached to her, even though there was a lot of abuse in the family, I was still attached to my mother. Mm-hmm. And so I went in my pool and I decided I was going to kill myself. And I got in the water and I went under. And I finally realized I couldn't do it, and I came up for air. And when I did, my mom was literally, her spirit in what I remembered her to look like, not something younger, or she was briefly sitting on the chair up by my patio, and she said, "Respect the life I gave you." I can't breathe for a second because I was trying not to. I don't want to cry while I'm talking. So I came out, I saw her, she said it, and I made an agreement. Now let's talk about this at a bigger level now. Why are these people not just respecting the gift of life? We are here to experience for that, the energy of God, which is us. We are here to experience the taste of water, to experience the French fries, whatever it is we eat, to experience the vegetable soup, to experience the wind on our skin, to experience life. And in that having that expression of life. So respect the life that I gave you. And I agreed right then. I agreed that it was time for me to start to respect the fact that I was given the gift of life. Because I didn't, when I was younger, I didn't wake up every day and go, "Oh, yay, life." And sometimes, believe it or not, it's really strange. I get up, and my mother stayed single for many years after Dad passed. She was single over 30 years before she passed away. And I've been single way over 30 years. And my mother, I turned into my mother in that way. And sometimes in the morning when I wake up and I'm making my bed, I think of the things, not of the horrible things that went on in my childhood, but I think of my mom and how she kept the house clean. And I realize I've just become a mini mother, my mother. And it's not bad. It's not bad. It was the good parts of her. So, love your lives. Love them. People just want to get out of this life. They're making this world some evil place. It's not reality. Reality is, even if Revelations was real and there's going to be an end of the world, it's not going to take this place away. I believe, for me, it's just the end of the world as we know it. It's not going to be just this,
Yeah, it's not going to be what people expect. It's definitely not what people are expecting.
Have you ever seen the it's the musical The War of the Worlds, not the movie with Tom Cruise, I think his name's Tom Cruise. Have you ever seen the musical The War of the Worlds with Justin Hayward?
No.
Well, there's a part in there where the Martians take over, okay? And this priest comes out with this. He's a real good actor. He gets on the stage and he makes this cross look like it's real heavy and it hits the ground. I mean, the way he acts, it seems like it's this big solid mass of metal. The way he's so good at letting it tear. And he gets down and he comes out and he goes, "I warned you. I warned you this would happen." So what he was basically saying in this scene was, it's not going to come like you think it is. Quit having all these imaginary things, that are going to happen. Let's get into the reality that everything is a metaphor. Everything is a metaphor. And that I believe that the end of the world, and the end of the world as we know it right now, has already happened. There has been some changes, things we've never seen. In my lifetime, I've never seen such ugliness in politics. I mean, there's always been ugliness there, but not this level. So there are things that are changing and shifting, and it's all kind of like a clock, and it's trying to, set itself. And, how many more days till election, when it comes to that? Mm-hmm. But it's got to be that we're going to have to make peace with whatever way. I think I'm probably going to, my inner child wants to just throw myself on the ground and pout, when the election comes, if things don't turn out. That's my inner side of myself that says, "Oh, no," but then think about it. What woke me up the other day is the people that are voting on the other end feel the same way. They are living, it's almost like you have, we could say, okay, there's been this nastiness and ugliness, but to them, they don't see this as nastiness and ugliness. They see it as, this is who they are. This is the class they're in. But the thing for me is, and I guess this is where it gets really hard for me to deal with, is the concept of love, what was taught by Christ to love one another. Mm-hmm. What is it if we're so worried about abortion, but we're not worried about children and lives, people who are alive now? We need to love all of life, whether it be, a child inside somebody's womb, or a child that's already born, or a person who's sick and could possibly catch COVID or get COVID, So I don't like the justifications. And the people that I have had moments with, very few, go back to the Old Testament to justify their behaviors. They use the Old Testament as well. There was killings and there was wars and there was the New Testament. It's called New for a reason. Mm-hmm. The New Testament was about be Christ-minded, like love. Just how hard can it be to love? Is it that hard?
That's a perfect way to sew this up. And if you'll hold on for a few minutes, we'll talk for a few minutes after I shut the show down. And thank you so much, Vivian, for calling in. And
I'm so sorry I rambled too. I haven't talked in 7 months.
It's okay, sweetie. I'm gonna mute it, and I'll be right back with you. Okay? Just give me a minute.
Okay, awesome.
I think what I'm gonna do, I'll mute you, so you can still hear, so you'll know what's going on. And let's see. Hi. Hello, everybody. Let me mute the desktop. Okay. So, I hope that you got an understanding of the bright and morning star, which, it can be subjective, but to find out it's the sun was a beautiful revelation. And the man of sin revelation is, it's a part of our journey, the steps that we go through, and then we're able to see the darkness within ourselves, so that way we know what it is, and having control only over ourselves. We have that power, and we should not want to be controlling other divine beings. They have free will to make their own choice, but with our own free will choice, we have the power to change what's going on in this temple. And the spiritual laws that we talked about, the spiritual law coming into being because we were harming each other. We don't have the right to harm each other. When we learn to walk in love with one another, hand in hand, respecting each other for who we are in truth and what we offer to one another. Oh my goodness, you guys. What an amazing and profound understanding that we will have going on within us. We are all a bright, shining beacon of light. And don't let anybody ever steal your crown. You are all in all, everything, and you project it out into that mirror reflection that we see going on around us. So always take everything that we hear from outside of ourselves into prayer or introspection, and make sure that we're getting confirmations and affirmations from within, because all of the answers are within us, and when we seek for them, we do receive them. You have all the power. You've always had all the power. You're amazing. And as I always say, share what you know and listen so we can grow. And that was Vivian from the Truth Sets You Free channel, YouTube channel. And she's got a book that she's self-publishing, and she'll definitely be on so we can get her book, circulating for anybody who, desires to read it. Sounds like it'll be a wonderful, fascinating read. And hopefully soon, I too will have something to announce to everybody that is pretty amazing. It's shocking. It's just shocking what we're able to do when we put our mind to it and just sit down and take the time to do it. So I love you guys all so much. Thank you for hanging out with us this evening. Have yourself a wonderful, wonderful rest of your evening. Peace. Talk to you soon.